all been there. We've all had those moments where we've looked down at ourselves, caught ourselves in the unflattering lighting, feeling like we're close to resemble an ironing board rather than someone that actually goes to the gym. T-shirts that are just hanging off of your arms. And maybe you get a few of those comments from people in the gym asking if you've lost weight, or you're saying that you're looking a bit smaller, when all you've been trying to do for the last 12 months is build as much muscle as possible. And halfway through your session you look across and you see some absolute man mountain curling in a dumbbell rack with veins running down his arms so big you could probably row a boat down them. And you stand there looking at yourself, feeling like you should be seeing more progress for the amount of time you spent in the gym. You should be bigger than this by now, and that you need to stop messing around and do something about it. So you tell yourself, fuck it, this is it. I'm gonna go hard on a bulk. I'm gonna eat big, train big, get big. You look at those guys in the gym that are bigger than you. You look at the fact that they're eating more calories, they're having more takeaways, they've got more muscle than you, they weigh more than you, and you convince yourself that it's just as simple as, do you know what? I just need to eat a load more food, I need to get as strong as I possibly can, and I'm gonna build as much muscle as those guys. So maybe I'm overcomplicating it. Maybe that's all I need to do. They've all done it, so how hard can it be? So you make the decision then and there. You just need to stop overcomplicating what you're doing. So overnight, in this newfound focused pursuit to get massive, you decide you no longer need to track your food. All you need to do is eat high protein and get plenty of calories in. You tell yourself that the cardio, the steps, they're just stopping you from gaining any muscle. So you pull them right out. You decide the best course of action after every single leg day is to get yourself to Five Guys or KFC to get some decent calories in. And that when you're in the gym, you don't need to be wasting time with all these isolation exercises or bodybuilding style splits. The real secret to bulking is focusing on your bench, your deadlift and your squat. And all you need to do is get strong in those, and you'll quickly add all the muscle to your frame that you've always wanted to see. Problem then becomes, of course, that you start taking in far too many calories far too quickly. This hope of just eating big to get big, avoiding the clean foods, going for the dirty options, the burgers, the pizzas, the evening ice cream, to try and put some size on, picturing in your head that it's only ever going to be lean muscle and you're going to end up with huge delts and still see your six-pack. It doesn't happen. You start to realise after 3 or 4 weeks of doing this that you're putting body fat on too quickly. You're looking in the mirror and you can see your belly's growing but your arms still look the same. Tops are still feeling loose around the bicep, but they're starting to feel tighter around the waist. And after about a month of this, you start to feel soft, you start to feel fluffy, you start to feel heavy, and you start to question whether or not this gaining phase is actually even working. So after one too many unflattering post-workout mirror selfies, you decide that the gain isn't worth it and that you're going to go back into a diet, get leaner, so that then you can give it another go and get it right the next time. The problem is then that you now fall into this yo-yo cycle of 4 to 6 weeks of bulking, getting fluffy, soft, not liking how you look, deciding you need to diet down. So then you do that for another 4 to 6 weeks, you cut your food down, you avoid carbs, you pull out the sugars, you avoid the takeaway, and after a month or so of doing that, you start to feel small again. The t-shirts feel like they're hanging off of you, and those same insecurities that you had the first time, which was the reason why you bulked in the first place, start to creep back in, and you decide that, no, do you know what, I don't actually need to be dieting, I'm lean enough, I just need to really focus on getting this bulk right. But because the last one didn't exactly go to plan, you're not really sure how it is you should be bulking. And whilst we're talking the sad reality of bulking, that's not even the only problem. One of the things that people don't talk about when it comes to having a successful bulk is you're not always going to feel motivated. You're just not. Regardless of the fact that you're eating more food and you should be getting stronger in the gym, you're not always going to be motivated to go in and lift, to go in and try and hit a PB, to get the food in consistently. And when you're looking in the mirror each week and you're not really seeing a great deal of change, if anything, the only thing you are really seeing is a little bit more body fat being added, and maybe you look a little bit fuller in areas month to month, it's not the most motivating thing in the world. You'll question whether you can be asked, you'll question whether it's even worth it or if it's even working. And in those situations, situations, you really can't rely on motivation to get you anywhere, because unless you absolutely love training and you live for the gym, which I don't, gaining phases are long, they are repetitive, they're pretty dull. If you're going to get anywhere with it, you kind of just need to accept that and realise that it's not always going to feel great. The fact is, you're not always going to love how you look in the gaining phase. It's not like when you're dieting and you can see differences every single week. You can see a bit more detail, or your waist is coming a bit, or you've got an extra striation in your delt or something like that. You don't get that. It becomes a process of every single time you do photos, you have to accept that you're going to feel and look a little bit smoother. You're not going to look quite as good as you thought you did when you first started. You're going to put some body fat on. You're going to get a bit fluffy. You might look better in tops and fill them out a bit more, but out of it you might not feel quite as good. And a lot of the time, the reason why people won't get to where they want to go to in that gaining phase is because that becomes so uncomfortable that you basically end the gaining phase early because you want to diet down again and feel a bit better about how you look. Now, as long as you're not gaining body fat ridiculously quickly, you really want to try and avoid doing that, because you just need to have the confidence that you are building muscle underneath and that the slow body fat accumulation that's happening photo to photo is just part of the process. The fact is, you will question the progress when you're in the gaining phase, when you're bulking, unless you're willing to stick some needles in your ass and see results, 10 times as quick. Still requires the same effort, but quicker results. You'll question whether things are working. You'll question whether you're building muscle underneath because it's difficult to see it with the body fat that you put on. You'll question whether you need to eat more food, eat less food, train more frequently, less frequently, whether you should be lifting heavier, whether you should be lifting higher volume, more reps. It's easy to overthink it and get in your head about it, and again get to the point where you convince yourself that just nothing's working and that you need to reset, diet down and try again. I often think that actually consistency and trust in the process when you're gaining is a lot harder than when you're dieting, because when you're dieting you get that instant feedback. Like we said, you can see the results. I'm getting leaner here, I've got more detail there. You don't get that in the gaining phase. You have to just rely on the fact that you're in a surplus, you're training consistently, you're lifting heavier, you're getting stronger, and then you just do it for a hell of a long time. And also, no one ever talks about how difficult it actually is to get enough food in consistently. Like, the thought of eating tons of food all the time sounds really appealing. And yeah, right, it's easier from a hunger point of view than when you're dieting, but to actively have to get all those calories in consistently, even when you're full, even when you're feeling uncomfortable, even when you're not loving how you look and you're putting some body fat on and you're really questioning whether things are working, to still have the motivation and the discipline to get the food in, to keep yourself eating enough, to make sure that you're still putting size on, to make sure you're seeing that scale weight go up. It's difficult, it's really, really difficult. A lot of people feel uncomfortable, a lot of people struggle to just get the food in regardless, they don't have big appetites. And in that case, you need to start looking at easier ways to get more calorie dense foods in. People think it's easy, people think it'd be ideal just to eat whatever and put loads of size on, but to do it properly for a long amount of time, 10, 11, 12 months plus, it's tough. So if that is all the wrong ways to bulk and the ways people go wrong and the things that you don't get told about, what is the right way? First thing you need to do is set yourself up right for that bulk by doing a proper diet phase before you start. Get yourself into the best position possible to go into a bulk. Get yourself as lean as you can so you can see the muscle that you've spent years training and building underneath. Putting you into a better position where your appetite's high, you're going to want to eat more food. You can see the muscle that you're growing as you're building it because you're starting from a leaner start point. And also, you've got much longer that you can spend in that gaining phase because you've got much more body fat that you can add before you might next need to tidy up again. So you're essentially giving yourself the best possible chance to not only have a productive bulking phase where you build as much muscle as possible, but also make it as enjoyable as possible and also like how you look for as long as possible in that phase. So I would seriously suggest, if you don't know whether to go into a proper bulk phase or whether you need to diet down first, you probably need to diet down. And I mean spend some serious time getting as lean as you can. The second thing is you need to be in a calorie surplus, but this does not mean you eat every single piece of food in sight, that you swap the chicken and rice for the pizzas and the burgers. It simply means that you track your food the exact same way you were doing when you were dieting, but now you're eating slightly above your maintenance instead of slightly below it. You only need to be in a 200 to 500 calorie surplus on any given day, consistently week over week, to add the muscle tissue that you want to see. You need to make sure that you're eating a high amount of protein, so anything from 2 grams per kilo upwards, and you still need to treat your diet with the same routine and consistency that you did when you were dropping body fat. You need to track every single day. You need to plan ahead what your meals are going to be. You need to try and spread your food out as evenly across the days you can, especially around the training windows where you might need that little bit extra to hit some PBs, to get stronger, to recover from the session. It's not about just sacking off everything you once thought about nutrition and just eating everything in sight, because that is what got you fat last time. So how much then do you need to eat? How often do you need to make changes? Well, it comes down to the rate of gain you want to see. And generally, if you want to prolong that bulk for as long as you possibly can, giving yourself the best possible chance to build as much muscle as possible, you want to aim for around 1% of body weight a month. That's all I did. I did a 13-month gaining phase where I gained about 10 kilos, which worked out to just around 1%, slightly over a month. So then you would track your weight and adjust your intake accordingly. Every couple of weeks, if you're on track to hit that 1% a month increase, then your food's pretty much good where it is. If you're not, you might need to change a few things, add in 100 calories at a time, see what difference that makes, take some food away if you're gaining weight too quickly, and make sure that you're not just giving yourself untracked day after untracked day, getting as much food in as you can. And that's all you need to do. Stay in a surplus, hit a 1% rate of gain a month, and keep hitting it for as long as you possibly can until you feel like you've gained enough body fat that now you can't see the muscle underneath, maybe you can't see your abs anymore, maybe you are feeling uncomfortable, and maybe it's time to do a little bit of a tidy up and see what's been built during that bulk. And the fourth and last thing you need to focus on in your gaining phase is your training. Because when you're dieting down to get leaner, the focus is, look at my photos, am I leaner, has my waist come in, can I see more detail? When you're gaining, you won't see those changes. You don't want to be spending the majority of your focus on those things. You need to focus on training hard, on going into the gym, on putting some effort in, on trying to get stronger, on lifting heavier, on progressing your lifts, because that, along with eating more food and recovering, is what is going to get you bigger over time. But it's going to take time. It's not going to be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. It's going to be month after month after month after year of consistently hitting those numbers and progressing your lifts to see the muscle added that you want to see. So that's it. That is the sad truth about bulking. It isn't as fun as you might think it is. You can't eat every single food in sight, and it does need to be planned out just as much, if not more so, than when you're dieting, because your motivation to stay in a bulk is not going to be the same as your motivation to keep dieting. You won't love how you look all the time, and you need to get comfortable with that. And this is exactly what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 to 12 months again in the bulk that I've just gone into after the softer shredded diet that I've just done. I'm going to be aiming to gain around 10 kilos over that time, pushing my weights up, getting stronger in the gym, and seeing where I can push things to while staying as lean as I possibly can. I'm going to have untracked days, I'm going to have weekends away, I'm going to have meals out. It's not that you can't have those things, you just can't chuck them in all the time in the name of the bulk, because the old eat big, train big, get big, it doesn't work. And that's what I'm going to be covering every now and again in these vlogs, the bulk as we go, the progress I've made, how I'm looking, what's changed, what you can expect and take from that for your own progress. So stick around, because that and a lot more is going to be coming up on the channel, as well as the occasional food challenge. Hope you enjoyed the episode, hope you found this one useful. The usual, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.